What if I told you that the world's largest iceberg has just broken free from Antarctica? This iceberg is so big it's almost like a floating continent. Its name is A23A, and it's currently drifting towards an island full of wildlife, including thousands of penguins and seals. But what if I also told you that this iceberg could have an impact on the whole planet, from rising sea levels to the creatures who depend on the ice for survival? So, what happens when a giant iceberg like A23A suddenly decides to break free and start moving? What could this mean for the environment? How will it affect the planet if it melts? A23A has been stuck in Antarctica for decades. But in December of last year, something happened. This massive chunk of ice decided it was time to leave its icy home behind. Imagine an iceberg the size of a city, but instead of staying put, it starts drifting like a giant ice ship. And right now, it's heading straight for an island called South Georgia, which is home to thousands of penguins and seals. The real question is, why should we care? Let's take a moment to think about this. South Georgia is home to one of the world's largest populations of king penguins. It's also a key feeding ground for millions of seals. But what if this giant iceberg blocks their way? What if it prevents these animals from accessing their feeding grounds, where they rely on food from the ocean? The truth is, the arrival of A23A could disrupt the delicate ecosystem of South Georgia. So, what happens if the iceberg stays in its path, or worse, if it melts completely? Icebergs like A23A are natural parts of our planet's cycle, but when one this size moves or melts, it can cause unexpected effects. For one, when icebergs melt, they release fresh water into the ocean, which can affect the salinity of the water. This means that sea animals who depend on certain levels of salt in the water could be impacted. But that's just one small effect. The bigger question is, what happens when icebergs like A23A melt completely? When giant icebergs like A23A melt, it adds more water to the ocean. And here's a question you might be asking: how does this affect us? Well, that fresh water mixes with the salty ocean water, which can disrupt ocean currents and even the weather patterns. But there's something even more concerning. When icebergs melt, they contribute to rising sea levels. What if sea levels rise by several feet over the next century? How will that affect coastal cities and entire countries? Let's explore the consequences of rising sea levels. Many major cities around the world, like New York, Miami, and even Tokyo, sit near sea level. What if they were to experience massive flooding due to rising waters? Some parts of the world could lose entire coastlines to the ocean. Coastal communities might face serious risks, including the loss of land, homes, and even entire ecosystems. So, what can we do to protect ourselves? It's not just cities that are at risk. The effects of rising sea levels could threaten freshwater sources, leading to shortages of drinking water. In some places, farms might be lost as saltwater contaminates the soil, making it impossible to grow crops. That's why scientists are so focused on studying the impact of icebergs like A23A. What if we could understand the role of icebergs in the bigger picture of climate change? By studying A23A, scientists can gather information on how melting ice impacts the ocean's carbon cycle and its relationship with climate change. You see, the more ice that melts, the more gases like carbon dioxide are released into the atmosphere, which speeds up global warming. What if we could slow down climate change by better understanding these ice giants? How do we know that A23A will be the last iceberg to break free? A23A wasn't the first iceberg to break off from Antarctica. In fact, massive icebergs like this have been breaking off for millions of years. But what's different now is that climate change is making these ice sheets more unstable. This means that even more icebergs could break off in the future, each with the potential to affect our oceans and ecosystems in unexpected ways. So, what happens next? How can we prepare for the future of our planet? The key to understanding the future of Earth might lie in the study of icebergs like A23A. If we can learn more about how icebergs impact ocean currents, weather patterns, and even the Earth's temperature, we might be able to find solutions to reduce the effects of melting ice. What if we could create better ways to manage the rise in sea levels? How can we help preserve the ecosystems that depend on ice, like the penguins and seals of South Georgia? For now, the battle with the ice continues. A23A is on its way to South Georgia, and it's unclear what will happen next. Will it block feeding areas for the animals? Or will it continue on its journey to Iceberg Alley, where icebergs go to disappear? One thing's for sure, the story of this iceberg is far from over. And what if, by studying A23A, we could unlock answers to some of the world's biggest environmental questions? What if this iceberg holds the key to saving our planet? Stay tuned, because the journey of this massive iceberg is just the beginning, and its story could change everything we know about life on Earth and beyond.